Hello again, everyone. The war in Ukraine is following its expected course. Just as in every war where diplomacy and negotiations have stalled, the war in Ukraine has once again reached a point where all the weight has shifted to the front lines, and the future is being determined by the skills and successes of the combatants. This is an expected development. This is because Russia's offensive, which began at the end of May and lasted until mid-September, did not yield the expected results, contrary to reports from the American deep state. Despite all of Putin's propaganda shows, reports given to Trump also indicated that the Russian army was not performing as expected on the front lines, and that in this state it was clear that Russia could never win this war. When Trump took office and based on the initial information presented to him, he believed that no matter when this war ended, it would conclude with Russia's victory. But his belief in this, especially after the meeting in Alaska, largely vanished. Why? Because the reports began to be more realistic and accurate. Why? This is the biggest problem with one-man regimes. In other words, the relevant authorities are afraid of the person, in this case Trump. They may prefer to convey the facts while perhaps concealing some of them a little, because they are afraid of Trump's reaction. For this reason, the fact that some of Putin's statements in Alaska were taken very seriously by the American side changed the situation a little. Today, there are no negotiations. The parties are threatening each other with nuclear tests and nuclear weapons. So, as a result, there is no negotiation process on the horizon that will determine the fate of the war in Ukraine in the near future. Last night, Russia launched another extraordinary bombardment, attacking with missiles and artillery. And again last night, and since the day before, Ukraine has launched major attacks on Russia's energy infrastructure, which could be its lifeline. From all this, we can see that we are heading towards an incredible showdown. There is one main situation here that catches my attention. No one has explained it. On November 4th in Madrid, representatives from the 35 countries supporting Ukraine will meet again in a secret meeting whose details have not been disclosed. And this meeting will be the first step toward extraordinary support for Ukraine from its European allies. In other words, Europe is preparing to become an intervening power in a war that is escalating and becoming increasingly important. So, what is the situation now? From October 29th to today, the biggest flashpoint on the Ukrainian front has been Pokrovsk and the surrounding areas. However, the information coming in reveals an interesting point in two respects. On the one hand, there is information that some of Russia's elite commando units infiltrated the eastern neighborhoods of Pokrovsk, and despite the great efforts of Ukrainian forces, advanced for a while and captured a bridgehead. In response, there is also information that a brigade belonging to the Ukrainian Special Forces has moved into Pokrovsk and fought off Russian troops who were not part of the Special Forces or commando units that had previously entered the city. As far as I can see, at this stage, the future destinies of Putin and Zelensky seem to be in the hands of those soldiers fighting in Pokrovsk. In his statement yesterday, Zelensky said that 177,000 Russian soldiers had launched an attack by massing in the Pokrovsk region. With 177,000 attackers, you have to face at least 100,000 soldiers because you are settled and have previously held every position. Because the attacker is always at a disadvantage and therefore has to be numerous. I'm telling you this to show you where this is going. These are extraordinary numbers. As far as I can see right now, at least 250,000 to 300,000 soldiers on both sides are currently fighting in the Pokrovsk region. This shows that we are facing a tremendous situation. Should I also mention the number of soldiers who are currently trying to enter the city and have made some progress? Of course I will. Why wouldn't I? 11,000 Russian soldiers. So, 11,000 of the 177,000 massed troops are fighting to capture this small neighborhood. This is a horrific post-industrial revolution war. In the coming centuries, the Slavic nations will look back on the Ukraine war as a great misfortune, because ultimately the blood being shed and the people fighting on both sides are the blood of the Slavic nations. This is the situation we are facing. Goodbye.